bailiff tells me you wish to make one more effort to publish the tape. Is that my understanding?
That's called a take back, Judge. I'm not.
Yes, sir, you'll allow it.
Well, whatever.
No.
I understand it's still not good, so whatever. If you decide you want to play it, do so in your closing argument. I'm going to let y'all play with it a little bit more. What, Mr. Taylor?
We don't have a problem if she wants to play it, Judge.
Well, do we have it where it really is understandable?
Yes, sir.
I mean, there's several different ways of doing this. I mean, we kind of, no, I don't want to hear it. You know, we can play a little bit more with the volume between the computer and here. We have there is a DVD player there that perhaps it'll play better on the DVD player. We've got a separate unit for the DVD player, but I don't want to experiment on the jury again. But you feel like you have it where it's really clear, you have a method you want to use.
I mean, I think it's as good as we're gonna get. It's still not as clear as it is sitting at my desk, but it's a lot better than what we've given them so far.
All right. Defense?
I don't have a problem with it, Judge.
Okay, we'll try one more time. Truthfully, I'd rather y'all experimented with it a little bit more, but that's all right.
That's
Let's
fine,
do it.
Judge. I'll adhere to your preference, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'll keep working on it. Let's move on.
I'm just thinking maybe it'll play a little bit more between what's the best computer volume setting and this setting here, or whether it'd be best on a DVD player. But I'll do it how you prefer.
I'll tinker with it some more, Judge, on the next
Okay.
recess.
Right. All right. Seven jury, you ready to proceed, Ms. Taylor? You have your witness in the courtroom. Ready to be seated? You may call your first witness, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Josh Allen.
Up here, please. If you'd face the clerk and be sworn, please, sir. Raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, would you state your name for the record and spell your first and last name for the court reporter?
It's Joshua James Hallock. That's Joshua Hallock.
Mr. Halleck, how old are you, sir?
I'm 32.
And in this particular situation, do you know an individual by the name of Frasch, Adam Frasch?
Yes, sir, I do.
And how do you know Mr. Frasch or Dr. Frasch?
I was employed with him for a couple years.
How many years?
I was employed with him for probably a year and a half,
Beginning when?
beginning in 2010.
All right. And you see Dr. Frasch here in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
And is he wearing that blue jacket over there?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And when you were working with him, what all were your jobs with Dr. Frasch?
Babysitting the children, packing for trips, driving, scheduling hotels, just basic gopher duties, I would say.
All right.
You know, just assisting with scheduling, stuff like that.
Did you spend time at any of his houses?
Yes, sir, all of them.
And which one, when you say all of them, which ones are we talking about?
Thomasville, Panama City, Golden Eagle, and the Lenox Mill.
Okay. Lenox Mill and Golden Eagle were here in Leon County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you travel with him, drive with him on occasions?
That was one of the biggest things that I did with them.
When you would be traveling with Dr. Frasch, did you see him in the possession of large amounts of cash?
All the time.
And when we're talking about large amounts, how much are we talking, if you know?
I would say at least $10,000 each time that he would go to the bank. Possibly multiple times a day, depending on what we were going. And like if we were going to go buy a vehicle, he dealt in cash. If we're going to the Hard Rock Casino, that was also a reason that he would have a lot of cash on him.
Okay. When you talked about going to buy cars, or did Dr. Frasch purchase a number of cars while you were working with him?
Several, yes, sir. Yes, that was, I'd say at least 1 or 2 a month, maybe more.
Do you recall the time of the year it was when his wife was found deceased in the pool at their home?
Yes, sir.
Were you working with him at that time?
Not as much, more as a friend. Just
You remained a friend after job
Yes, sir.
duties, is that right?
yes, sir.
Okay. At the time during this particular time period when you were his friend, did he have a number of cars out there at that Golden Eagle house?
There were the garage was filled with motorcycles and a couple vehicles. There's probably 3 or 4 in the driveway.
Right.
Yeah,
Did he often carry car keys around with him?
he had a book bag that was completely full of keys. That was one of the issues that we used to have, is actually finding the keys, because there were so many of them
So he would carry those with him everywhere he went?
everywhere he went. He had the car keys and probably 2 duffel bags full of mail that we would always have to carry around with us everywhere.
How about passports?
Everything. He had passports, license, car titles. He kept everything with him, just always. It was,
Would it be a fair statement that his cars were always packed with this stuff?
yes, sir, very fair.
Did you know his wife, Samara Frasch?
I did,
Okay. They had children?
yes, sir. It was Skyna and, I'm sorry, it was Hyra and Skyna.
All right. And did you help babysit those children?
Predominantly Hyra. Several times I would babysit her quite a bit.
Okay. Did Dr. Frasch have spend time with the 2 children?
Yes, they were his children.
Okay. All right. So basically, you were with him full-time for 1.5 years or so, and then afterwards, you were still a close friend and stayed with him, still traveled with him.
Yes, sir.
Would it have been unusual for him to go down to Panama City, Florida, with passports, cash, and a bunch of car keys with him?
Nah, that'd be unusual if he didn't have them.
Thank you. That's all I've got, Judge.
Frasch?
Mr. Halleck, you said you frequently traveled with the defendant. Did you travel with him to the Super Bowl in 2014?
No, I didn't.
Do you know who he went to the Super Bowl with that year?
I couldn't say. No, I'm not definitively. No, I don't.
Do you know a woman by the name of Shakita Carter?
I don't know Shakita Carter, no.
Do you
Did she
know-
go by any other name?
I don't know.
Okay, no then, I don't.
What about Erica Tidwell? Do you know who that is?
I think I met her once or twice, maybe for a night or 2.
How did you meet her?
I don't. I think she came into town and was using a car. I think I got her a job for the night at a bar here in town. I think
And
it's
did you
called
know her?
Score.
Did you know her through Mr. Frasch?
Yes.
All right, and she came into town and got one of Mr. Frosch's cars?
You know, it's been. No, I think she had a rental car.
All right, and how long before the murder of Mrs. Frasch was that?
5 to 6 weeks, possibly. I'm not certain on the time frame.
And
It was
around that
close.
time, okay, around that time was Miss Tidwell staying at the Inverness house?
No, she was staying at the hotel behind Ted's Buffalo Grill.
What about before that? Didn't she stay at the Inverness house during a period of time?
I don't know about before that. I know that I took her to the hotel.
Who had sole custody of Hyra and Skyna Frasch in February of 2014?
I believe it might have been Samra.
No further questions.
Redirect.
No question.
Any juror have a question of this witness? If not, you may step down. Do we need to keep him further? You need him any longer?
No, sir.
You're excused to stay in the courtroom or go about your business as you see fit. Call your next witness.
Matt Christensen.
You face the clerk and be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have a seat. Slide at the microphone, please.
Thank you.
Sir, would you state your name and spell your first and last name for the court reporter, please?
My name is Matthew Christensen, Matthew Christiansen.
Mr. Christian, where do you live?
8524 Heathcliff Court in the Golden Eagle subdivision.
And how long have you been a resident of the Golden Eagle subdivision?
We moved in June of 2012.
And by we, who are we talking about?
Me, my wife, and 2 daughters.
Right. And is one of your daughters named Lauren?
She is.
Okay. And so Heathcliff, is that anywhere near Inverness Drive?
It is.
Okay. Are you familiar with why you're here today?
Yeah.
Okay. Did there come an occasion back in 2014, February 22nd, 2014, when you were in the neighborhood of the Inverness Drive area and observed something?
Yes.
And tell the folks what you were doing that day and what time it was.
That was a Saturday morning, and my wife and oldest daughter left our house in the morning to go to Valdosta, and me and Lauren decided to go for a little walk around our neighborhood, go up to a lake near there, sit for a little bit, chat, then come back to the house. So that was our plan for the morning.
Okay. And did you in fact do that?
We did.
And what time of day was this?
Beth and Lindsay left around 7:30. They got to Valdosta around 9. We left our house around 10 a.m. and we got back to our house around 11 a.m.
Between the 10 a.m. leaving your house and the return at 11 a.m., did you happen to go by a residence on Inverness Drive that had a lot of cars in the driveway?
Yes, I did.
And what do you know about that residence? What's unusual about it?
What is unusual is there was always 8 to 10 cars that are always there. Some of them are exotic, not your normal make and models of mass production. So it causes you, when you walk by, to look at them more than your standard regular driveway that is often empty or a regular car.
This particular residence, the actual driveway, does it level or does it dip down to the house?
It dips down.
Okay. So the house sits basically lower than the road.
Correct.
Okay. And on this particular day, did you stop and look at some of the vehicles in that driveway?
We didn't stop, but we walked past the house and did our normal kind of look over as we always do.
And did you Do you recall what time this was when you went by the house?
It was probably between 10:25 to 10:45.
All right. And when you walked by between 10:25 and 10:45, did you see anybody in the driveway of that house?
We did.
And who did you see, or what did you observe?
I saw a woman, African American, tall, dark hair, thin. And the only reason that stuck out to me was that was the first time I'd actually seen a person ever at that house. I've always looked at that house because of the cars, but now I saw an actual person there. So that's why it stuck out as an anomalous event to me compared to prior walks.
And what was this person doing when you observed her?
It looked like she was putting something into a vehicle and then walking back towards her front door.
Okay. When you say tall, African American, thin, when we describe that, was that be a model-like figure or just somebody that's anorexic?
I'd probably say model figure. Thinking anorexia would be more bones and stuff, be more visible.
Correct. Okay. And so, how long did you have an opportunity to observe this individual?
Several seconds at most.
Did she
It's not
have
as
black,
I
black
stared.
hair? Dark hair, black hair?
Dark hair, black hair, dark.
Okay. Do you recall how long it was? Was short bob or long or a weave or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Did there come a time during that day that you ran into a friend that sort of helped you with the timing?
Yes, when Lauren and I were leaving the lake and beginning our walk back towards our house, a friend of mine, Trip Frazee, was passing by us in his vehicle. We talked for a few minutes, then he continued on his way.
Okay. Did that orient you to the time of day that it was?
That played a role in my time orientation. The phone calls that I got from my wife were a better time indicator of her getting to Valdosta, Lindsay going into her audition, Lindsay leaving her audition.
Okay.
Those were all placed phone calls on her behalf.
Were you interviewed by law enforcement concerning your observations on the morning of February 22nd, 2000?
I was.
And did you basically tell law enforcement, I saw this tall, thin black woman outside the house by a car around 10:30?
I did.
After you told law enforcement that, did they ask you to come back and explain that again?
We went to the sheriff's office and provided a statement once. Pretty sure that's all it was that.
You're pretty sure what you saw that day, isn't that true?
I'm 100% sure that I saw a woman in front of that house during that time frame.
Did law enforcement show you any photographs of Mrs. Frasch and ask if you could identify them?
Pretty sure they did, but I can't remember that exactly.
You didn't have an opportunity to do a full ID profile of who was there, is that right?
That is correct.
What
I've
time?
never met
Okay.
Miss Frasch.
So you do know it was a tall, thin, black woman between around 10:30 or so, outside by a car in the driveway at that house.
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I've got.
Frasch.
Mr. Christensen, you testified you saw the woman loading something into a vehicle, correct?
Believe so.
What type of vehicle?
To my best recollection, it was an SUV.
What color?
I can't really remember. Like I said, there was always so many cars there that it was a kaleidoscope of colors and cars.
Okay, but you recall giving the interview with law enforcement, correct?
I do recall giving an interview with law enforcement.
And would your memory have been better then, or?
It definitely would have been better then.
All right, so if you said the SUV was black back then would it have been black?
Yes.
And regarding the woman's hairstyle, you said you couldn't recall as you sit here today, but back then, would your memory have been better regarding that as well?
Most likely.
All right, so if you said she had a ponytail style, hairstyle, would that have been accurate?
Probably. I do remember it being longer versus short or of the pixie type nature.
But you don't remember her having a ponytail as you sit here today?
No.
Do you think the vehicle that you saw her loading something into could have been a white SUV?
I don't really, can't say for certain.
So it could be white.
Could be white, could be black. Like I said, there was a lot of cars in their driveway all the time.
How many cars were in their driveway that day?
I didn't do a total count. My estimation was normally there were probably between 8 to 10.
Okay, and didn't you indicate that there were less cars that day?
Could have.
Didn't you say that you took special notice of the house on that day because the cars had been moved?
Could have said that. Less cars for them would have been 6 or
Okay.
5.
So you're sure there were at least 5 to 6 cars in the driveway that day?
I'm pretty certain.
All right. And did you take note of any specific cars in the driveway?
No, I just remember she was standing near an SUV.
Right, but I
Um,
mean, you talked about, you always noticed the house because they always had these high-end vehicles. Were there any vehicles in particular that you noted?
No, not that day. There were, but there were always normally sports cars and big SUVs and convertibles and expensive type cars. As for whether that particular day the make and models of cars were different, that I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
So as you sit here today, you don't recall that you took specific note of the house that day because the cars were gone?
I look at that house every day I look at that house every time when we walk by it. The cars are what draw you to look at it. What made that day particularly unique was that there was a person there, whereas there had never been one in the past.
All right. And the person that you saw, you don't know if that was Mrs. Frasch or not?
I do not.
And you had never met her?
I have never met her.
The person that you saw, did you see their face?
Somewhat.
Okay. And was the face model looking as well?
I would say so.
How was the person dressed?
I'm not the best to answer fashion questions, really. It wasn't a bikini, but it wasn't jeans, and it was, the clothing wasn't what really stuck out to me.
Weren't you adamant in your interview with law enforcement that the woman had on red pants?
I could have been at the time. That would have been my best recollection.
But you don't recall that today?
I do not.
How long would you say you looked at this woman?
Probably a couple of seconds, probably no more than 10, maybe around 5.
So between 2 and 10, definitely, seconds?
I would probably think.
Okay. And this is part of your regular routine to pass by this residence?
Back then, it used to be our current walk is a different path. But back then, if we were feeling ambitious on our walks, we would usually go by that particular house because there's less car traffic on it versus the main road that does have more cars on it.
How often did you walk that route that would take you past the Frasch residence?
If you're talking back in that time frame, maybe once every 3 days, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Winter months tend to be less.
Well, this would be a winter month,
Correct.
so once every 3 days in the winter months?
Probably once every 3 days would be more accurate than one every other day.
Okay, do you know when the last time you passed by the Frasch residence was prior to what you observed?
So when was the last time I passed by the house prior to February 22nd?
Right. Like how many days had it been since you've been by there?
No. It would have been decently recent though, because that would have been our normal path.
So fair to say you'd been by there at least 2 or 3 times in February.
Yeah, it's safe.
And the time frame for this event would have been between, you said 10:25 and 10:45?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not able to say 10:32 a.m. specifically is when you observed her?
I'm not.
Were you able to see what the woman was loading into the vehicle?
No.
Was it like something large or a purse? Were you able to tell it was like a big tub or?
No, my memory makes me think that it was something larger than a purse, but not as big as a large tub. But
And when she was loading it, was she loading it into the very rear of the vehicle or into the back seat?
I believe it was a back seat.
So you would have had a full view of the rear of the vehicle.
I can't say for certain, but most of the vehicles, to my recollection, were backed into the driveway versus pulled in head first.
Okay, so your view was of the front of the vehicle.
Correct.
And where was the vehicle parked in the driveway?
If you're facing the house from the street, your front door is on the right-hand side. Your driveway goes downhill like this. There's a walkway that leads into the front door like this. The vehicle's back and down here. So the vehicle would have been, I believe, facing towards the street. She would have been here to then do a 180 and walk back towards her front door.
So she was loading something into the driver's side or the passenger side?
It would have been driver's side. If it was in fact parked in that manner, traditionally they backed into their driveway, not pulled in.
Okay, and was the vehicle closer to the mailbox or closer to the house?
The house.
So there was a bit of distance between you and the woman? About the distance between you and I right now, or more or less?
Greater than you and I right now.
How's your vision?
Good.
With glasses or
Mhm.
okay even without them?
Great with glasses.
Okay, and did you have your glasses on that day?
I did.
You always walk in your glasses?
I do. I used to not wear glasses and my vision was horrible. I got glasses and realized how much better vision can be.
When did you get the glasses?
Shortly after we moved into our neighborhood, maybe even before we moved into our neighborhood.
What year would that be?
We moved into the neighborhood of June 2012.
So probably sometime in 2012 is when you got the glasses?
I probably got the glasses in 2010.
Do you happen to recall around the same time frame having a 1.5 hour phone conversation with someone in Detroit, Michigan?
Do I recall having I'm sorry, can you please repeat that?
A 1.5 hour phone conversation with someone in Detroit, Michigan,
On what day? On that date?
around the time that this incident occurred. Do you recall that? And you may not, I'm just...
I don't recall that. If I'm thinking the chronology of my life back then, it could have been a work-related call with a Hearst newspaper based out of Detroit, would be my guess if I'm trying to tie that up.
But you don't recall that specific?
I don't recall an hour and a half phone call from Detroit around February 22nd,
Okay,
several years ago.
that's okay.
That doesn't mean it didn't happen. My work
No,
has
I
me calling all over
understand.
the
I
place.
didn't know if you would remember or not. Nothing further, Judge.
Be direct.
It's been 3 years.
Almost.
Is there any doubt in your mind you saw a slender, tall black woman loading something into a vehicle in that driveway
No.
between 10:25 and 10:45 on the 22nd of February 2014?
There's not.
The car you indicated may have been facing in or facing out. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure it was either facing one way or the other.
One way or the other, okay. Do you recall seeing that the door was open, that there was a black interior to the door?
Don't remember.
Okay. After you left the residence that day, did you continue walking your normal route home?
Yeah, and we proceeded from there to the house.
And you've indicated you don't know Dr. Frasch, never met anybody that lived in that address,
Never.
and don't have any bias or reason to be here.
No.
Thank you, that's all.
Any juror have a question at this point? All right, you can sit down. Do we need to keep him further?
No, sir.
You need him for any reason?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you're excused. Thank you for being here. Call your next witness.
May we approach?
Okay?
Need a report.
All right, well, the likelihood is that we have one more defense witness, perhaps two, but likelihood is one. But he is not available this afternoon. So we're going to break for the afternoon. I want to give you all kind of a, trials are a little bit funny. They can change from what you think, but I think we've got a pretty good handle on it. We should be done with the testimony by lunchtime tomorrow. I'm hopeful that we could get the instructions worked out and have closing argument. Early tomorrow afternoon and provide the case to you. I can't guarantee you that, but that's our thinking at this point in time. If we got into deliberations tomorrow afternoon, we probably wouldn't want to break, we'd want to let you go and see if you can decide it tomorrow. I'm not going to keep you here. We might feed you and keep you till 9 or 10 o'clock. If you were making progress, if you weren't, we'd have you come back the next day. I mean, we're not going to keep you here all night, but I guess what I'm saying is you probably need to make arrangements and warn your loved ones that you may be late tomorrow. You don't have to provide dinner for anyone or have responsibilities tomorrow night, because if we could finish it tomorrow, I think it would make everybody happy, and if not, we'll finish it up Friday morning. I'm not trying to overdo things on it, but if we could get it resolved tomorrow, that'd be great. Anybody have an issue we need to hear about? Don't discuss the case among yourself. Don't discuss with anyone else. Don't let anybody talk to you about it. Don't watch or read any newspaper or TV accounts of it. Tomorrow morning, 8:30. All right? See you then. All right, everybody be seated. Either side have any issues?
Judge, I did print a copy of Sergeant Corbett's presentation, which I've labeled demonstrative exhibit 100A. So I'll provide that to the
Just for
clerk.
record purposes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No other issues.
That, unless there's agreement to the contrary, that will not go to the jury, but have it there for record purposes. Y'all ready to discuss jury instruction?
Yes, sir.
Seems like we ought to be able to figure out most of it by now. And y'all can remain seated during this process. Anybody, let's kind of just take it page, let's take it through excusable homicide. So page 1 and most of page 2. Anybody found any errors, have a problem, think there's something in error there?
No, sir.
No, Your Honor.
Who's speaking for the defense on this?
Greg, okay, me, I guess. No, Your Honor.
All right. As to the instruction on first-degree murder on page 2, and let's take it to the through the question of premeditation. Let's take it that far. Anybody have a problem or found an error in the definition of first-degree murder?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, the thing I highlighted was the heat of passion instruction, affirmative defense. Does the defense contend that they're entitled to heat of passion defense instruction?
I think we are, based on the fact that the case is going to the jury predicated on Folsom's statement.
State?
I agree.
Okay, so I'll take the highlights out of that. Does anybody have a problem with how I have defined heat of passion? I mean, it's just the standard instruction.
Yes, no problem.
No objection.
Okay. As to second-degree murder, the instruction on second-degree murder, I assume the defense is seeking the lesser second-degree murder. Yeah, y'all discuss the lessers.